Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a thriller from France, French language English subs, released in the year 2019, directed by Olivier Abu, and this film is called Get In. So Get In is about a man, he's got a wife, he's got a young son, they go on holiday. He's got a luxurious house that has been looked after by his maid and her partner. But when they get back from the holiday, they realise that they've been locked out, and in fact the couple that were looking after the house are squatting. They're basically claiming the house as their own. So this infuriates the husband. He goes to the legal system to try and get help, but to his horror he realises that there's a loophole in the system that is allowing these squatters to actually stay there. And so this man, his wife and his young son are homeless, and so they have to go to a caravan park until they can sort this out. But the longer the solution takes, the more angry this man is getting. And so he starts to become familiarised with the owner of this caravan park. Now the owner is a very shady character and he hangs around very shady people, and these people are starting to influence this man into believing that the only way he's going to get his house back is to be a man, and to be a man he's going to have to take it by force. And so whether or not this married man goes down a path of legal advice or brutal advice is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Get In. I haven't been this disappointed by a movie in a very long time, and unfortunately the reason why I was so disappointed is the sense of anticipation that this movie brings, and ultimately the mediocre conclusion that it has. So anticipation both before I watched the movie and while I was actually watching the movie. Now before I was watching the movie, the reason why I had so much anticipation is that this is a French thriller / horror. And so whenever it comes to French horror, you guys know that I'm a French horror fanatic. And I'm waiting for that movie that just recaptures the glory days of French extremity. And number two, you have a high impact film. So this is an R18 rating that it had here in Australia. So for that reason, combining those two, that's going to get me really excited. Is that high impact and French horror / thriller? You think of Inside, Martyrs, Frontiers, High Tension, those movies that just really captured horror as far as I'm concerned. So that was another ingredient that really should have made this film great. And the last ingredient that makes this movie so disappointing was the fact that Olivier Abu was the director. Now, he's directed a film that I believe is one of the most underrated horror / thrillers called Territories. Now, Territories was a devastatingly cruel film, and it was a movie that was a social commentary about our behaviours towards certain groups of people. And I'm not going to give anything away, but if you want a detailed review, please check it out. But I thought that movie was really soul-crunching, but at the same time thought-provoking. So Olivier Abu is a very, very good director. So taking those three elements together, I thought this is a film that is going to just re-energise me as far as French horror / thriller is concerned. It was going to be a movie that I was going to just recommend to absolutely everybody. But unfortunately, this movie just falls flat, and I will give you the reason a little bit later. But basically this is a film that is all about anticipation. Now you guys have heard me say in the past, anticipation relies on one thing and one thing alone, and if that one thing doesn't work, the whole film is going to derail. And that one thing is conclusion. Is that okay, you're anticipating something really, really bad that's going to happen, the whole film you're bracing for impact, and so that impact has to be really good. Is because if it's not very good, then all of a sudden that anticipation was for nothing and you feel cheated. And ultimately that is why I dislike this movie, is that I felt cheated. I felt as though Olivier Abu copped out at the end. He went down a Hollywood route and once again forgets everything that made French horror so great in the first place. So the director is going to entice a lot of French horror film fans to watch this movie, and he's going to promise something that he never really delivers. And so this is a film, I thought the anticipation was great. It was sculpturing this main character from a man who was a very decent man, but the legal system was failing him. And so he was starting to turn into this monster. And this monster wasn't necessarily this man's fault. And so it's asking you, okay, if the law fails you, what can you do? And so the law was just as much of a villain in this movie than the actual main character, as he starts to do increasingly disturbed things. And I thought, all right, well, that is interesting. And I liked the progression, and I thought that the main character's performance was fantastic. And combining that with great cinematography and an absolutely phenomenal score, the film does build some sort of expectation. The movie does build some sort of anticipation. What's around the corner and how hard is it going to hit you? And so there are some fairly nasty moments in this movie, but unfortunately, that's the only positive I can come up with this movie. Is that, okay, it is a film about society and what society believes a man should be. and how wrong that is. Basically, if you're a man, you've got to serve your family, whether it's through legal means, but if it's not through legal means, then you've got to be a man, you've got to stand up for yourself and fight back. And ultimately, violence is not the answer, but society sees manhood as violence, is that you've got to hit back at people, and if you don't, then you're not the man. You're seen as a coward. And that would be good if this idea hadn't been done before. So ultimately, it has been done before, and that's the reason why I believe this is a French version of Straw Dogs from Dustin Hoffman, the Sam Peckinpah masterpiece. Straw Dogs was just a demonstration of what an average man will do if he's pushed to the brink. And that movie had an absolutely fantastic conclusion, and so the anticipation, okay, I'm bracing for impact, and then it hits you, and you think, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting that. But this movie has the same sort of feel. You're bracing for impact, and then you think, well, was that it? I've just spent an hour and 30 minutes, and that's what you give me. And so the movie does fall flat. It's a very tame finish, and it's a very Hollywood finish. And so I thought, well, this is everything that is not French horror, French thriller. This is everything that is against his other movie, Territories. Territories was really, really cruel. Therefore, it provokes much more thought. It provokes a lot more discussion. Whereas in this movie, I just felt as though the ending didn't belong, because it derails all the anticipation that the film has created. And there's also a side element depicting race, and how society reacts to certain races and treats them differently. And again, that's been done before, and that aspect of this movie didn't really go anywhere. And I thought it was a little bit of a distraction, to be honest. And so this movie doesn't really know where it wants to go. It doesn't want to be a social commentary, doesn't want to show you, society's shortcomings as far as expectations are concerned, or doesn't want to be a home invasion sort of thriller/horror. And I thought it would have been a lot better if it was just a standard sort of thriller/horror with little aspects thrown in there. But Olivier Abu, he tries to put everything into the basket, but nothing comes together, nothing gels. Therefore, it leaves a very, very sour taste in the mouth, and I was just bitterly, bitterly disappointed by this movie. It's nowhere near as hard as an R18 plus rating should have, and so I thought that's a little bit misleading. And it's just the anticipation before the film, and the anticipation during the film, and the overall conclusion just falls flat. It just destroys everything that this movie wants to create. And as I said, anticipation has one thing, and it's banking on that one thing and its conclusion. If the conclusion doesn't work, it falls flat, and ultimately that's the reason why I'm giving Get In 1.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.